Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Connected Podcast with myself, John Rios. So excited to record this episode and introduce my next guest to you guys. This guy has played such an intricate part in the healing, the growth, the evolution of myself over the past 2.5 years, 3 years. He has done so much work with me on a spiritual level, on a mental level, even on a physical level as well. So I'm really excited to bring him to you guys and introduce you to him. My brother, Jonathan Martinez, also known as Master Joe, also known as Healing Hashim. And bro, tell us about yourself. Tell us who you are, where you're from, what you do. Go for it, man.
Thank you for having me, John. I grew up in New York, born and raised my whole life. I'm a healer by trade, which is not something that you kind of hear these days. So mostly I'm helping people to integrate spirituality and then mindfulness and these kind of things in their life. But the way that I consider myself is just as a modern day healer, not just healing myself and trying to understand how to go through this earthly dimension the way that I know how to do it, but really helping people to navigate through the difficulties in their life and the things that they're struggling with to understand. And of course, like I grew up, we're on the same page in this part, like growing up in New York City and like just the grime of New York or just the grime of that inner urban lifestyle. Healing is not something that comes up in conversation. Energy is not something that comes up in conversation. These are not the kind of things that will come up, but I really had a strong desire to heal myself, a calling to purify the things that I struggled with in my life, and the information that I learned and that was put on me through life, and then also helping people how to do that for themselves. So it's a kind of esoteric question when I think about it myself, what do I do? But in a nutshell, I really help people to navigate through their life in the best ways that I can and the ways that I know that I've navigated myself and was guided myself.
Yeah, thank you. And Master Joe, tell us a little bit about your facility, the company that you work for, because to be brutally honest with you, where I first met you at your center, that's a place that I would have never walked into a million years of my life. I would have never stepped foot in that place. Seeing just the decor of it from the outside is probably something I would have made fun of or made a joke about. And it actually ended up being my safe haven. So tell us a little bit about the company and your center.
Yeah, so I work for a company called Body and Brain, which is, it kind of falls under an umbrella of a movement called the Earth Citizen Movement, which is what we are aiming to do, which is create a collective consciousness where we could coexist and live together. So the Body and Brain Centers are health and wellness centers designed to teach the people what they need to know to navigate through their life. So we teach yoga, meditation, tai chi, qigong. We work with people who are struggling with specific illnesses and disease. We work with people who are struggling with relationship issues or just navigating through a certain period of their life. But the centers are designed to allow a person to have a space where they can fully express themselves, whatever it is that they're going through, and then having people there that can help them to navigate through that and articulate what it is that they're going through in a way that they can understand so that they can start to heal and overcome a lot of these issues which they feel within themselves are complications and issues. So in a nutshell, it's going to be a space that people just go to free themselves. When I think about the center, I think about like a temple or even a church. These are all places that people go where they can reveal what they're really going through inside, and then from there we can figure out how to overcome their obstacles.
Thank you. That's actually a perfect depiction or representation of it, to say that the center is almost like a temple or a church, because for me personally, that's what it was for me. To be honest with you, what it was for me was after I had gone into the jungle and I had done lots of deep plant medicine work, when I came back to the States, when I came back here, I was yearning for a place or a space, so to speak, that gave me that same feeling, that gave me a feeling of solitude, a feeling of just an escape almost from reality or from everything else. And that's what the center essentially felt like to me. So I'm glad that you know described it in that way. But there was something that you said a second ago, collective consciousness. And I want to talk about that a second because I think that's very important. I think it's something that we're not really touching on. And a very popular business person that I follow on social media recently put up a post about collective consciousness as it's referred to or as it's correlated with business and economics, meaning that in the news, they told us that a recession is coming, a recession is coming, a recession is coming. And essentially what we all do is we create the recession. Our collective consciousness comes together and creates the recession. Why? Because the media tells us that's what's happening. So people start hoarding cash, they start selling off assets, and they essentially stop spending money. And that essentially creates the recession, when in reality, we could keep pumping money into the economy and we could continue to move on in a healthy economy. But the media puts us in a state of a collective consciousness where we start creating what that storyline, that narrative that they put out. So what is that like? Because that's a business example, but what is that like from your perspective in a spiritual, energetic space? What do you see, or how do you describe that on your side?
So when I think about collective consciousness, human beings, we want to be together naturally, right? No, even though we're kind of leaning into a isolated state of existence, which was caused by the pandemic, the whole concept of the pandemic and covering your mouth and, isolating yourself in many different ways, staying 6 feet apart. And we noticed that this created a psychological imbalance in many people. We could see it in the statistics of mental health. We can see it in the statistics of even someone's own home, of how they communicate with each other, how they communicate with themselves. So when we think about coexistence, it's not something that is super complex, but how can we live together in a way that will benefit all people, whether that's business, whether that's in the schools, whether that's in the hospitals, whether that's in your own home. But really understanding, how can we live together? How can we live together peacefully? And even just for myself as a healer, I always just consider wherever I go is, how can I coexist with these people, right? Because I considered myself multifaceted in many ways. I can blend into many different types of environments because I'm not trying to necessarily change the environment. I'm trying to find a way that I can present myself in a way that people can receive it well, in the language that they understand. So we have to kind of articulate things more sincerely when I'm talking to someone, like where I grew up with my friends. Like, they may not understand certain words that I use, like even healing or energy. So me being caring enough and not wanting to coexist with this person, I have to make effort to communicate in a way that this person can understand me, and then we can connect with each other. So honestly, it's just all about how can we live together peacefully in every environment that we have to live together, that we have to coexist together and within the same space.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's been an air of divisiveness, but I mean, I almost feel like it's been that way forever. But I think that in the past 2 or 3 years, it's been extremely heightened with racism, with COVID, with the pandemic, so on and so forth. So that's definitely a good explanation of just us coexisting as human beings in that space. But another thing that you mentioned, that you said when you go back to certain areas, certain demographics, certain neighborhoods, and you speak about certain things, because I come in contact with this all of the time. Like, John, you're from the hood. What are you like? What are you talking about? And I was looked at as either I didn't know what the hell I was talking about, or I was losing my mind. But yet, when people started to see these changes in me, they became more inquisitive. They wanted to be became more curious. They would ask more questions. So something you just mentioned was them not understanding energy. And I want you to talk about that, because that's so huge. Because for me, I had no idea that my physical healing would be from addressing trapped energy, trapped trauma that converted into energy. So tell me a little bit about what that is, because you were the one that helped me with that. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so I think most people have to understand how their body works, like what we're actually made out of. And for me, it started with understanding exactly how my organs function, how my brain functions, how the different systems in my body functions, and then what powers those systems. Like I have an issue in my liver, so then what powers my liver, right? Blood flow or oxygen flow or these kind of energetic flows, or the lymphatic system, and all these kind of systems within our body. And we want to understand what it is first on the most structural level. So by understanding how your body works is a very easy way to guide someone to understanding how energy works. So what powers a car? Essentially energy, right? You use certain minerals from the earth like gasoline, or if it's an electric car, you're using an electric current. What powers that electricity, right? Energy. So essentially everything is being powered by this esoteric concept of energy. And when we look at it physically, it's very easy to tell, right? We eat a certain amount of food or a certain type of food, and it makes us feel a certain type of way. Like we grew up where like you would eat something and you'd get the itis right away. And then I learned later, like that's not necessarily a good sign.
Good thing, yeah.
It means that your body's using an excessive amount of energy to process, digest, distribute that food throughout your body in order for it to nourish your body, and then the rest to be eliminated. But when you eat certain types of food that come from the earth, like fruits or veggies, you don't feel tired, you feel electrified, you feel good. So then when we're looking at energy, we can look at so many different pillars of energy, starting from the physical body and the physical things that we consume and interact with, right? Music, what do you eat, the things that come out of your own mouth to other people. But when we think about the energy that most people are talking about in spirituality or practice, it goes beyond just my physical composition. There's something else within me which I can feel, which I can sense, which I can communicate with if I just silence all of the other things which are distracting my awareness to that presence. So energy in order to feel energy, you have to have a developed sense. We call it heightened sensory perception. You need to be able to sense the delicate sensations of actual energy. So like anybody who's watching this, if you just take your hands and you put them in front of each other and you move your hands in and out, you're gonna feel a form of feedback. Now you can't see anything, but you can definitely feel it. It's electric, it's magnetic, you feel temperature, you feel something. This is an easy way for us to say, okay, I feel, even though I can't see it, I feel it. So that means it exists. I'm now giving it life by recognizing it exists. Another really easy way to kind of translate this is, people say this all the time, like, oh, that person don't have good energy. Oh, that person got good energy. We use it a lot, even before the whole concept of new age energy talk. We used to use it all the time. Or that person's vibes are no good, or that person's thing, and vibes is short of vibration, right? That person's, what they're emitting from their voice, from their presence, feels either good or not good, which means we are sensing their density, we're sensing the frequency, we're sensing the wave, we're experiencing life first through energy before anything else. So for me, it's like, okay, I feel energy here. And this is really powerful because now I can control it. Now I have access to it. Now I could do something with it. This is outside of me. So now what am I going to do with the energy that I feel inside of me when I don't feel good energy? How can I cleanse that? How can I clean that? When I'm working with someone and we're talking about something and some anxiety or some type of emotion comes up, how can I communicate through that? It can't be done necessarily through just your words. You need to practice how to manipulate energy within yourself, physically, emotionally, and of course, spiritually, which can be very esoteric and a pretty mystical conversation because we can't really put words to that dimension once you're in it. Outside of it, it's even hard to communicate what that really is. But communicating with energy, we're doing it before we're doing anything else. So we should all become masters of energy. So then we can communicate with each other better. It's like reading the room, right? You feel the energy of the space, and then the person who's mindful can help to navigate through that energy.
No, I agree. That's a great explanation of it. So I want to say maybe like prior to 3 years ago, I was very ignorant to all of these things like energy, trauma, healing. I actually grew up in an environment where you didn't talk about anxiety, you didn't talk about depression, you didn't talk about feeling sad, none of that, right? And if you did, it was like, no, you're fine, And when I finally started to learn about these things and realize what they were and that I actually was dealing with them in some form or fashion within my body, within my mind, and I said, I have to go and take care of this, right? And for me, the way that I went about healing myself or starting the process of healing was with plant medicine, right? It was introduced to me, and I had done countless amounts of plant medicine ceremonies, and it's an expedited tool, to be honest. It's like straight to the point, you're going to go straight head on with your issues. But one thing that I thought was extremely fascinating with you guys and your practice was all of this healing and things that you guys teach through movement that I had never even fathomed or thought of before, where some of the exercises that you guys do, and like, I considered myself to be fit. I worked out every day, I ran, I lift heavy weights, and then I'd come to your center and you'd have me do one little baby pose, and I was sweating like crazy. I'm falling over. I had no balance. I had no equilibrium. I went outside. My ego was hurt. I'm fucking crying. So explain that concept to me and everyone else of this physical movement for healing and channeling energy.
Yeah. So, life is movement. When you think about cells, right? And I don't want to geek out on like anatomy or like really like going too deep so that it's complex, but like you think about cells, our cells are always vibrating. When a cell stops vibrating, the cell loses life, right? We call it a dead cell. If the cell is active because it has a charge, it's vibrating, and then we say this is alive, right? When you are not moving, when you become depressed or your emotions are heavy, your body feels dense and immobile, and you want to kind of just curl into this ball and not go anywhere, right? Going back into the womb where you felt the safest, right? Where there's no movement besides the natural movement of support, right, from your mother, and then you feel fully protected. So all the kind of issues that we had in our life are some form of stagnant energy or some form of stagnation where we didn't circulate, we didn't move the process. Right. So physically moving is one of the easiest ways, because as you're moving, you're triggering certain pain points, which triggers a certain memory, which triggers a certain part of your life where you were going through certain things. And that information is trapped inside of your body. Right. So like my shoulders became very stiff because I was working all day. I had to work all day because my mom told me that I should be a doctor and that I should do this specific job. So all my tension and everything becomes not just a product of work, but the information that led me to that point to begin with. So all those ideas, the memories, the emotional experiences are being carried with you on this body. And as you're moving your body, as you're stretching and twisting, you're facing with everything in real time, in real life. And it's the most encouraged way of practice because you feel good doing it, right? You're stretching, you feel nice, but you're also uncovering so many layers within your body, within your mind, within your emotions that you didn't know you had. Like if you didn't go into the center and I said, hey, John, do sleeping tiger for 20 minutes. And then you're just holding a posture, but your whole body's shaking. And then all of the information in your brain starts to come out. I'm not strong enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Like, I wish I'd rather die. Like all this information starts to come out of you that you didn't know was there because you never had to face with yourself. You know, pain is a great teacher. It's a healing point. It allows us to feel where we need to focus in order to resolve something in our life. And we always start with movement. It starts with moving the physical body. By moving your physical body, you start to feel pain, you start to feel emotions. And by continuously moving yourself again and again and again, you start to process everything as long as you continue. And you keep moving, you keep circulating, you keep vibrating, and keep adding and amplifying it, giving it energy. And then more things are going to come out because your mind starts to change as you're doing training. No different than when you're in a gym, right? Let's say you got like 4 more reps, but you don't have any strength. Even your last rep, you don't have it. In order to get those 4 more reps in, you have to use emotional content. So we usually willingly bring up our emotions in the gym, right? We got 4 more sets and we're like, and some people try to find some motivation from something, right? They think of something, this is how I want to be, and they muster up the strength by using emotional content. So movement is not just mindless. Even when you go to the gym, in order to see progress, there has to be some type of emotional content tied to it. We just take it another step deeper, which is going into the consciousness, into the memory and the information beyond the emotion, which is the preconceptions. So all the fixed information which we grew up. I'm a man, men shouldn't cry, men shouldn't ask for help, all the information which we are born with or given to at birth. So we just need to go through that process, and movement is step 1. Movement comes in, you start to feel difficulties, you need to bring up emotional content, which means by bringing up the willingness, you elevate your consciousness right away. And then as you try to elevate even more, you will find all the obstacles and limitations in between. The information which stops you from doing something, the emotions that stop you from doing something, the memories which stop you from doing something. Because at the end of the day, what really stops you is your own belief. If I told you you can hold sleeping tiger for a day, nothing negative will happen. Most people, even if the information is secure, they wouldn't go through that process because they're still in a very undeniable self-doubt, self-worth, self-value, which is not fully healed yet. So we're just taking it into that space, and movement is really the way that we could start the practice of healing ourselves.
Yeah, thank you. Brother, there was something that you said a second ago that it literally just triggered something for me. It triggered a memory for me, where you said pain is an experience for us, or a lesson for us. And I remember so vividly going to one of your workshops, and you had mentioned this workshop to me so many times, and I kept putting it off because my ego was like, oh, I don't want to do this. It's stupid, the movements, I don't want to do that, it's gonna hurt, whatever. And I remember going, and in trying it, my ego took over. I got so angry because I was failing. I wasn't doing the movements properly. They were hurting me. And I got so angry that, and you know this, at the lunch break, I left and I didn't come back. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. I packed my shit and I said, I'm out of here. And I didn't see it in that moment what the lesson was. I didn't see what it was at that time. I just was so disappointed in myself and embarrassed. I didn't even want to talk to you after that. But days later, I had an experience at work where I kind of had the same exact feeling where I was like, I'm gonna pack my shit and get out of here and run from this. And it took me back to walking out of your workshop and how I felt in that moment. It was very similar. And it said to myself, no, I'm gonna stick through this. I'm gonna ride through this. And there was so much satisfaction on the other side of that. And that's a great point that you bring up, that there's a lesson and a teaching in the pain. So thank you for saying that. But
trying to think what workshop you were talking about.
Yeah.
Which workshop?
Not
finding yourself.
I don't. No. It wasn't
Not finding yourself.
It was another one. It was very physical, and I couldn't do shit. But another thing that you had mentioned there, right, was the whole like narrative of not crying and not this and that for men. And I hate to use the word toxic because it gets thrown around so much these days, but I do agree with the terminology or the phrase toxic masculinity. And I really didn't know what that was until I started healing myself. And people like you, people like my coach, people like brothers in my spiritual community that I would meet with, and we would say I love you to one another. And in the beginning, that felt very uncomfortable. That felt awkward. I was like, whoa, what the and then I started doing that in the hood. I started going to the hood and telling my brothers over there, start talking to them about plant medicine. I started telling them I love them. And that was uncomfortable, right? And I feel like, you're from Soundview, Bronx, same like demographic as me. I feel like that frame of thinking is what is holding our male community back even more so than the drugs, than the chasing money, is that narrative. So what do you feel like, what have your experiences been with that type of mentality and that narrative?
Yeah, so I think we have a similar story in this case. Like I'm grateful enough to have grown around a very loving father. My father was like, although he had his own obstacles and complications, he was still very touchy and involved with us in that kind of sense. So I have some memory. I can't recall everything, but I have some memory of like being held and being touched and these kind of things, and it feels good. And I've always been like a super touchy person. Like I want to like put my arms around my brothers and like my boys and just really like, I want to be like this with them. But probably like around high school to like post high school time, which was like the kind of gangster phase where you just like, you don't want anyone touching you. Like, nah, don't touch me. Like this whole narrative behind I'm an untouchable person and that's a good thing, right? Like people fear me, that's a good thing. No, it's not a good thing at all. It created more complications and more conflicts, and I couldn't understand my brothers, right? Because now we're kind of fighting on the inside. This like becomes like a power game. So when I realized that none of that is going to last long, and I entered into my healing journey, and I started to feel sentimental towards myself, like being able to hug myself, being able to caress myself, being able to like rub my face and be like, I love you, and I love my body, and saying all these things to me was so weird, and I couldn't get them out of my mouth. I couldn't say confidently, I love my face. And when I had to tell people to say it, I'm like, I wouldn't be able to confidently say, like, it's good for you, because I didn't feel good about it. So not to backtrack and going back to the concept of toxic male, right, or toxic male energy, it's just we're not taught to express our lovingness, right? Man is man, but human being is man and woman, embodies feminine and masculine energy. And we understand this because a man sees a puppy or a baby, and then immediately they're talking in a soft voice, oh, it's so cute. And then we explore these kind of things within areas that feel safe, but people don't accept the concept that we embody both energies. That's one. And then they don't explore their feminine energy. That's another. And they don't try to understand what part of their masculine energy is not beneficial for themselves and others. It's like we don't study ourselves enough, and there's nobody teaching us how to become a man who embodies both presence. When we see a single father, we see a glimpse of that energy of a man who embodies that feminine, motherly spirit. Because when I say feminine, I mean Mother Earth's energy, who embodies that energy of embrace and unconditional care and support. We see it, right? But then people who are not given those kind of opportunities don't get a chance to cultivate that energy. And I'll be damned to get caught in Soundview Project hugging a tree. Like it's not happening, right? I'm not doing it, right? But now I could do it. Now I can go anywhere and do whatever I feel. And if someone comes up to me, I could say, why don't you try it? Why don't you try it? Give it a shot. See how it feels. See what it makes you feel like inside. It's no problem, because I already was able to come to connect with my feminine energy and really embody that, right? So I just feel like men need to understand how to cultivate themselves better, right? What's taking away their true masculine energy, right? Their physical masculine energy. And then how can they cultivate their feminine energy? And then how can they let those two energies merge? We have two separate types of cultivation, and then we have the intercourse where the yin and the yang has to dance. And that's where movement comes in, where we take these energies and we allow them to circulate within us. And you cry and you open and you laugh and you go through all these different emotions as a process of that merging. And practice is not something that most people are doing. So I talk a lot about toxic masculine things, but at the end of the day, what is the work that men have to do? Because we hear it a lot in when women talk about toxic male and they say men need to do the work. But what is the work? I think most people don't know what that actually means. What is the work? What is shadow work? It's not something that's done just through your thinking and processing of information or avoiding and living in a nicer place where you can be more peaceful, because your mind will go with you even in that location, and it will be triggered at another point, and then you'll come to find out that you didn't really heal that, you just avoided it, right? Many men are just avoiding to really meet with their complications inside and those energies, right? And we just mask it with knowledge and principles and these kind of bubble wrap it, but you need to face with all of those things inside of you. Forgive those who hurt you. There's a lot of emotional work to be done to heal the toxic male energy, but it's only part of it, right? How can I tap into my feminine energy? How can I merge the two now? And then how can I actualize this in real life? How can I actually apply this in my relationships and in the moments that they matter the most?
And also how can we make that become a normal thing? Where our men, and I'm not just talking about in the hood, I'm talking about men, period, where our men understand that having a balance of the masculine and the feminine is needed, and that word feminine there's nothing wrong with it, there's no stigma attached to it, there's nothing uncomfortable about it, because what you said a second ago was doing the work. What is doing the work, right? And for me, it's like I've been doing the work for 3 years now, 2.5 years, 3 years, but I was doing this shit for 35 years prior. And that takes so much time. You see it come up, just when you think you've gotten to a good place with this work, something else comes up and it's like, okay, this is something new that I have to address. And for me personally, why I wanted to start this podcast, why I wanted to do this, was because I strongly believe that everybody you meet, every person that comes into your life, every relationship is for a reason. It has a purpose, and you are connected to these people in one way, shape, or form, no matter what. And I wanted to put on the stage all of these people, you, all my coach, business people, spiritual people, all of the people that have come into my life. I wanted to put them on this stage to say, hey, like, these are all the different pieces and relationships that help me to start doing the work. Because I'm not fixed, I'm not healed. I'm still a work in progress. But wanting to highlight that because my brothers come to me all the time asking me to teach them about real estate, to teach them about money, to teach them about investing. And I want to teach them this. I want them to learn this. I want them to feel this. Because I don't want to keep hearing about them going to jail. I don't want to keep hearing about this one died. I don't want to keep hearing about rest in peace. Because what frustrates me is that they're so masculine until their brother is laying in a casket, and now everyone says the shit they should have said. Now it's I love you. Now we shed tears. Now we put our brother on a t-shirt. Now we take care of his family. We got to reverse engineer that to where we're doing that now in the present. And I'm sorry,
my heart's shaking.
It's upsetting for me. So that's why I wanted to put this together and do this, because this is more important to me. My brothers knowing that I lost everything, and because of the work that I did, yeah, it messed me up for a little while, but I was able to bounce back because of the work that I did. I was sick and I was able to bounce back because of the work I started to do. And that's what's most important. So, I wanted to ask you, I know that you went from Scarsdale, New York to now you're in Chicago, right? And what are you seeing in that environment in comparison to what you've seen over here, and what is the energy like over there? What are you experiencing over there in that area?
In a way, and I said this when I came here, I said people are people. It means we're all struggling with the same thing, essentially. What's my purpose of my life? Why am I here? And where do I need to go? And like the neighborhood that I'm in, that this center specifically is in Northbrook, which is the Scarsdale of Illinois, right? So I moved from Scarsdale to Scarsdale. Okay. So I thought, anyway, people are the same, right? There's a lot of money circulating here. There's a lot of development circulating here. But when people come into the center, we have a few men who come in, and even in here, they try to bring that masculine, really strong, energy, oh, I don't have anything to heal. No, I'm good. And I'm like, well, then why are you here? What brings you to this space? There's several studios which you can go and stretch, and I can recommend several for you. But what we do and what it seems that you want is related to something that right now you're telling me you don't have a problem with. So admitting that they have that shortcoming is important, right? And we just go back to level of consciousness, which no longer brings in the conversation of man or female. It's what is this person's level of consciousness, and from where are they speaking from? So now when I see whether it's a man or a woman here in Illinois or in New York, I just see, okay, where's their level of consciousness? From what place are they speaking from? Are they speaking from anger? Are they speaking from fear? Are they speaking from pride? Are they speaking from despair, from shame, from guilt? Where is this person coming from? And then from there, I can really understand how I can help them to, one, see that, and then two, do you really want to stay here? And do you want to be somewhere else? And if you do, let's recognize where we are and then take a step forward. So people are people everywhere. I've been downtown to the city. I've driven into South Side, and I'm looking at the hood in Chicago, And I just see that it's the same environment. Although it's slightly different, aesthetics are different, people are different, segregation is a little bit different here. It's more clear than it is in New York. But people are people, and we're all struggling with the same exact thing, which is one of the most recent studies that they say, what are people dying from the most these days? And what they found was loneliness. And when I read this, and I was shocked, and I said, that's right. Why do people essentially die? Why do they become sick? They isolate themselves in some way, shape, or form, and they become lonely and distant. And that disconnection is the essence of destruction, right? We already know one of the main laws of war, divide and conquer. By division, everything is weaker. So then we are weaker. We are weak as an entity in this planet because we are not together. Men who are super masculine like that, they don't have a sense of that togetherness, that feeling of togetherness, which is intimate, which is sentimental, which is loving, which is something that they're not used to. They're just protecting something within them. I see it and I feel it. People are trying to protect what they know themselves to be. And we just need to know ourselves more. Men need to know themselves more. Women need to know themselves more. Not just as a man or a woman, but as a human being in this planet, in this alive, breathing organism that we are a part of, not that we own or that we trump over, that we are a part of. By understanding that, we can understand that we are all in the same situation, whether it's here or in Australia or New Zealand or Japan, because I was in Japan in the end of May. And I thought, oh, I'm going to go to a country that's like everyone's totally different. And some parts are, yes, very uniform and different. But when I talk with people, the best that I could with my translation, people are the same. They all the same. We all want the same thing. Even somebody helped me on the train, and he was trying really hard to speak English. And I was like, you're doing a great job. Like, thank you so much. Like, whatever you say, it's okay. Because at least I know that I'm not going to get lost. And he said, I'll walk with you. And him and his girlfriend came and they walked with me. And like, they really were so helpful. And just by me like praising him and saying like, no, like you're doing great. Like you could see it. Their eyes light up. You know, it's a manly man. You know, getting praise like that, like, oh, you're doing a great job and thank you so much. And like really being humble to say thank you to someone shows that it immediately opens this person's heart. Every time I think about men, I think that our hearts are just closed. Somebody hurt us at some point in our life. It could be ourselves, but something happened where we close our heart and now we are hard. And it's sad that masculine is related to hardness. When people think of like masculine, even you say it in the street, right? Like I'm hard, like I'm hard.
Yeah.
And then when you think of feminine, you think of soft and weakness, which is not the case at all. It means our preconceptions about men and women are not right. They're not, how can I say? They're biased. They're based on our own subjective experience with men and women. But we don't really understand masculine. We don't really understand feminine because we don't really understand our own existence as a human being. And this entity of energies that exists within us. Man is not hard. Woman is not weak. It has nothing to do with that, but that's how we translate. Man should be hard, woman should be soft. And now that women are becoming much stronger, women say, you know, we can do the same thing as men, but I hope that they don't embody that part of masculine energy, which is the hard, cold, closed heart, competitive energy, which I see it in a lot of women, especially my peer group, like my friends who are like entrepreneurs and like make lots of money and then they embody this character of the man that they try to trump, which is not the good part of the man that you want to copy. So I believe we just have to understand ourselves on a deeper level as not just, again, man or woman, but as a human being. So
what I'm hearing is like, again, it reverts back to energy, right? Like the energy is almost the universal language where demographic doesn't matter, geographic location doesn't matter, sex doesn't matter. It is the energy that we are all emitting that then speaks to one another, right? And I think that that's where, you know, we all need to start. But so perfect question, somebody like myself who didn't know any of this before coming into your center, they're hearing this podcast, they're saying, okay, I'm dealing with anxiety, I'm dealing with stress, I'm dealing with depression. What are some simple daily things that someone can do in home without having to go to a center, that they can do on their own at home in the morning or at night, that you would suggest that can just get their engine going and start helping them get on the road?
So this is a fully, like, immediately my brain pulls out an encyclopedia of exercise. I'm like, well, what's their age? What's their age? But the one thing that I really feel that people can practice that is really underrated practice is breathing exercises. But not just breathing for the sake of breathing. Like, there's a concept of doing meditation where you're just sitting down and practicing what we call kumchok, which is like prohibiting the desire to move your body. You told yourself you're going to be still and you don't move. But when you do specific breathing exercises that are connected to your intentions or what it is that you want to create in your life, then it can become more meaningful. So I would recommend for most people is breathing exercise because it's easy to do. Everyone can breathe. And if you're not breathing, you shouldn't worry about it anyway, right? But for the most part, you just need to relax yourself. And in order to relax yourself, you need to give oxygen to the tissues. In order to do that, you have to consciously breathe, right? So and there's levels to the breathing exercise, but if I had to give someone a practice right now, I would say the first thing is breathe physically first, right? So sit down or lay down or make the most comfortable posture that you could make and take deep breaths. When you're taking deep breaths, it's not your lung that's just activating, it's your brainstem. Your brainstem is what controls your function of respiration, right? So by automatically putting your awareness to your breathing, you now eliminate the stress in the brainstem. And also the brainstem is dealing with the reaction of your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, right? So right above your brainstem, you have all of your like internal emotional brain or the limbic system, where you have your pineal gland, your pituitary gland, you have all the things in your brain which are exchanging chemicals and hormones and things like this. And then how this is getting translated to your body is it's being filtered through the brainstem, right? So by breathing, I immediately release tension of the brainstem. It puts me in a state where my muscles, my brain starts to relax. And then I start to go from a fight and flight or freezing state to a rest and digestive state. So now that is the intro to your healing, right? You start breathing, your brain starts to relax, your nervous system starts to calm down, right? Your autonomic nervous system, your central nervous system, all the nerves within your body start to relax, and then you will start to feel them pulsating. You can start to feel your life, like your actual life. You feel your body breathing, starting from your brain, then your lungs, then your heart, then your stomach, spleen, liver, and then you feel it throughout your whole body. So spend enough time breathing into your physical anatomy, into your actual physical body, because we can survive months without food, weeks without water, but you can't survive even minutes without breathing. So the most important thing for our existence in this physical body is oxygen. We need to breathe in and release carbon waste from our body. And if we practice this, immediately we start to feel calm and relaxed, and then we feel free. Once you're in that state, you can now tap into deeper feelings, which is your emotions, right? Because what's going to start coming up as you're breathing is memories, information, and then you start to observe them as you're breathing. People usually get caught up in the emotions and they don't go deeper. So first level is breathing for your physical body. Stimulate everything. Second level is breathing to eliminate emotional waste or emotional toxins, which are just unresolved emotions which you've yet to feel. So if you get angry, be angry. If you get sad, be sad. If you feel depressed, be depressed. Be there. Don't try to control it. Just be there. Be present, but don't stay there. Keep the thread of breathing.
Working through it.
Yeah, keep going through it, right? 30 minutes pass, 40 minutes pass, 50 minutes pass, an hour passes. A big thing is that people don't give enough time to practice. Oh, I meditated 20 minutes. I did a good job. Yes, it's good. It's better than nothing, but it's not going to get you where you want to go, right? People did these studies and practices all day for years, more than a decade, to get to the state of peace where they can actually keep it and retain it, no matter how hard life gets. So breathing exercise is the most simple thing, which no one can resist. Breathing exercise. If you understand the breath function, you know you need to increase your breathing capacity. You need to increase how much oxygen is going into your blood. So that way your body can actually process information, waste, eliminate what it needs to, take what it needs to, and you can go into the next level without being distracted with so many things of the physical body. So that's what I would recommend initially for people.
Yeah. So, and just like that was very detailed. Thank you. But like, is there any sort of like, because I know there's a lot of breath work techniques. So would you suggest any sort of like hold in for 3 seconds, release, like, or is this just, you're just referring to deep breathing as opposed to shallow breathing and just sitting still? Like, what are you suggesting?
So first we have to understand the mechanics of breathing, right? You never want to breathe hard and sharp because this is going to go up to the top of your lungs. It's too sharp, it's too strong, so you can't engage your whole lungs, right? So avoid breathing strong and sharp. Avoid breathing into your mouth. Your mouth is not a place where you breathe into. You can breathe out, but you don't. So I would say level 1 of breathing, if I had to teach a practice, inhale through your nose slowly, usually between 3 to 6 seconds, you'll inhale. When you inhale, like a good thing you could use is like maybe a feather or a leaf or something and put it underneath your nose. If you breathe in strong and hard, it'll pull the leaf up or the feather up towards your nose. You want to be able to breathe so gently that even the feather doesn't flutter, it doesn't move. So you let it enter slowly, right? Inhale, 1, 2, 3, and if you can't breathe anymore, just kind of pause. Don't hold it. Just pause, and it may slowly release by itself. And then you exhale slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As much as you can. In the beginning, you may be able to do 1 to 3 seconds, and as you increase the capacity, it'll be 3 to 6 seconds, 6 to 10 seconds, something like this. Breathe slow and steady. Control the breathing. But I don't even like the word control. Like, allow your breathing to happen. Allow your breathing to happen. Don't try to control. Don't try to control. Just allow it to happen. Let the function start. Breathe in, breathe out, and then allow the process of you to continuously focusing one single breath at a time. One breath at a time. That's it. And do this until you can breathe deep. You can take one deep breath into your body for several seconds. Increase the capacity in which your body can retain oxygen.
Perfect. There was another topic that I wanted to touch on that you mentioned a second ago, which was meditation. You mentioned that, meditating for even 20 minutes is not enough, right? And to kind of revert back to what I had said before, in everything happening according to the universal plan or law or God's plan, whatever you want to refer to it as, I understand that so much now because so much of my healing personally was around my relationship with my father. I had so much trauma from my childhood, and there was so much healing that needed to be done that it was making me sick, severely sick. And when I started on my plant medicine journey and started healing that relationship with my dad, I now understand that I needed that to happen in order for the next phase, which was when my dad got diagnosed with cancer. And I'm so grateful for that, because had I not gone through that, I wouldn't have been in a place where I had already forgave him, and I was working towards moving in a better direction with him. And I wouldn't have even been able to say that I brought him in to see you. And getting back to the topic of meditation, my father had never even heard of meditation until I brought him into the center to see you after he had already been diagnosed. And although I knew the power of meditation, I saw it firsthand with my dad, because I remember after his first session with you, he came out and his eyes were open, and he was, although he was sick, I had physically felt an energy in him that I didn't feel before. He was almost restored energetically. He was in a great place. And I said, Dad, how was it? And he said that meditation was so deep. So talk to me about meditation and the mindset and how important that is for healing, for your day-to-day living. What is that like?
Yeah. So like when we think of meditation, the concept of meditation is so esoteric. Like I personally don't consider meditation something to practice, but a state to exist in, like being awake or being asleep, but being in a state of meditation. So how can I get into a state of meditation, and what does that mean to me? So of course we're with, like in this particular case, your father, the meditation was a lot more spiritually involved, because it's relating to life and death. His life is being threatened, and he has to make a conscious choice to want to live. He has to want to live. And that would be the initial start of healing. Do you want to heal? Yes. Okay. Then first, don't hold your breath. Breathe in and embrace life for now, because all we have is this moment. So if you live your life already fearing death, then every day you will live as if you already died, with that mindset, with that energy. But if you say to yourself, I want to live, I really want to live, and living starts with the first breath. And then you start to feel so many things will release. Even if whoever's listening to this, if you just tell yourself, I want to live, and you repeat it 100 times, I can almost guarantee you will cry, because you will realize how long you didn't really live your life, but were controlled by all this society's way of living the way that we have to. So to be in a state of meditation is simply to be aware. One, I'm an alive being. I have the power to create my life. I have the power to help people. I have the power to heal myself, to help others as well. I can make the earth that I live on more beneficial and growing the earth, or I can take away from it only and make the earth condition worse. So initially, when I'm sitting down and we're starting our meditation practice, is first recognizing I'm here. I'm not in the past. I'm not in the future. I am right here, right now, in this moment. And immediately the words that will come to your mind can be, thank you. I'm alive, right? I recognize my aliveness. I'm alive. Thank you. I'm sorry. I feel so stiff and I feel so tired and I didn't take care of myself. Please forgive me. I love you. I never recognized that I didn't give love to myself, right? You start to have realizations by just sitting and reflecting. When you do a job, at the end of your task, you reflect if you did it well or you didn't do it well. But we don't do that in our life. We're not checking, we're not reflecting at the end of each day how life can, if this is the direction that I want to go, or is it something that I want to change? And by lacking enough reflection and observation, you're not aware of the condition of your body. Body becomes unhealthy, and then you become sick, and then life becomes more complex. Again, it's that cycle. So we sit, we breathe, we reflect. It's a very basic concept of understanding you. A lot of people don't know themselves, and then they try to project their lack of knowing to others, and then they come off a certain type of way. And we usually don't like these kind of people, right? Because they tell people how they are, but it's because they don't really know themselves, or they don't really understand people in general. So meditation, like I don't agree with the way that meditation is taught in this modern time. Like just download an app and like play the audio for 20 minutes. I think it's a downplay on what meditation is really supposed to be. And it's keeping you away from really tapping into your powers within you as a physical being, and also the esoteric phenomena of powers which we can tap into, which we're not clear about, because again, we're not taught about telepathy or communicating with energy or coexisting with nature. Wow. Because when you're in a state of deep meditation, a lot of animals, babies, like people come to you. That's a natural phenomena of your light, of you becoming lighter. So most people have to start from a very basic place of feeding the body like a baby. Oxygen and primordial energy is coming in as I breathe. And then I'm starting to understand why it's important to nourish my body through breath. You start to feel good. You start to feel your blood pumping. You start to feel your energy coming back. You start to feel revitalized, right? Like when I do healings for someone, I'm not doing it so much. I'm vibrating them, and then I stop, and then I send the energy, and then I let them focus on their breathing and feel their body as a whole. And we just do it for long enough for them to get a feeling. And then by the end of the session, they feel recharged, because that's what literally happened, right? One other charge, I'm one charge, they're another charge. My charge and their charge comes together, and the strongest charge wins, right? So that means my energy has to be stronger than the Cancer, has to be stronger than their negative mindset, has to be stronger than that. If it's not, it will pull me. And then at the end of that session, I will be the one who's like drained and tired and negative and feeling sick, right? So we just add the charge together, let the phone charge long enough, in this case a human being, let the human charge long enough, and then let them function. They're going to use energy, and they need to recharge energy. So if you use energy, you need to recharge energy. Use energy, recharge energy. And then good thing is that we can have access to an infinite storage, so you can recharge your energy infinitely. And then you can face anything, because your energy is big enough to deal with all the things that are potentially draining you. People who are very stressed and emotional and don't have space for people is because they're not charged. They literally don't have enough energy, literal charge to share, to interact. And that needs to be healed immediately. And that's simple. Fruits, veggies, breathing, sunlight, circulation of blood, oxygen, lymph, muscles, bones, tissues. It's very, very, very basic. And they start to feel good. But there's also like the whole thing about what kind of life they're living. Like, you're in a business that's like so gun-ho, and there's a lot of like stepping on people's toes, and there's a lot of competition. And then in a way, people start living just in that universe and forget that they existed in a totally different space prior to even having that job.
Yeah.
Right? And then how can they manage themselves through that kind of environment, is by being clear about why they're there to begin with. So I hope this is a clear enough answer. But I just feel like meditation is not something necessarily to practice, but a state to be. And in order to be in a state of meditation, there are many things which you do need to practice, which is, of course, your breathing, your movement, and then self-reflection, and then studying. Many people don't study, people don't do workshops. And that's a big thing. People don't do things more than what they need to do, or that they are interested only in what they're interested in. But everyone should study about the body, energy, spirit, earth, these kind of things, so they understand how they play a role in the collective consciousness of the world.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned my industry. And there's a lot of people in my industry that are gonna hear this and watch this, and I think that I started to do my own work at the perfect time, because where my mind used to be, had I still been thinking like that in this industry in this point in time, I would have been engulfed. I would have been immersed so deep. And I think that there are many people in this industry, in my local market and I've gotten the opportunity to talk to people in my industry across the country, across the world, and I'm very aware that I see the same pattern of behavior, that there's an unrelenting sense of never being satisfied, right? Like, you come from corporate America and you were told that making six figures is a big deal. To make six figures, you made it, you're successful in life, you can live a good life with your family. You come into this industry and it takes a little time to hit that six-figure mark. You hit that six-figure mark and there's no time for you to enjoy that, to feel satisfied, to feel accomplished. It's immediately like, and I'll give you a perfect example. In our industry, we have to start setting our goals for the following year at the beginning of the fourth quarter of the previous year. So we're already future pacing by 4 months. We're already saying, I can't even enjoy this that I just did right now because I got to start thinking about next year. Because I made $300,000 this year, to next year I got to make 600. And I try to tell my brothers and sisters and my colleagues within my industry that at what cost? At what cost? What is that next goal going to cost you physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually? And I had to get off of that hamster wheel. Yes, I still want to be successful. Yes, I still want to grow my business, but not at my expense, not at the cost of myself. And I was there for a very long time, and I refused to be there and go back to that. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's essentially what our industry is. And I see it in the teenage generation too, right? Social media has heightened the instant gratification, where these kids want to be famous tomorrow. They want to go viral. They want to, at what cost?
That's what they think is important, right? Like, society tells us you make lots of money, people will love you. You have popularity, people will love you. Are you a celebrity, people will love you. So then what does that tell me? People just want to be loved, essentially. And their idea of being loved is coming from either popularity or fame or the way that they look and all these kind of things. So their love is not coming from a pure place of like just existing. Because you exist, you're loved. And because people see you and they recognize you and they spend time with you, you are loved. Nobody loves you. You are absolutely by yourself. Nobody cares. No one's checking. And if that's the case, then you can still love yourself and not grow a sense of bitterness for the world, because the people you want around you aren't around you yet. So everyone just wants to be loved, and the way that we learn to be loved is to make more money, right? If like when I was taught, it's like men got to work hard. We got to work hard. So since I was a kid, I worked hard, and then people will love me, right? My boss will love me. Then, make money. When you make more money, you'll find a good wife. You'll have a stable relationship, right? And then working with a lot of people who are multimillionaires, billionaires, and then I look at their relationship and I said, no, having a lot of money does not guarantee you will have a good relationship. By seeing and meeting so many people, I realized none of what society has taught me guarantees that I will feel loved and I will be happy and I will feel joy and peace. It doesn't work. I met people, celebrities, people who make lots of money, people who make no money, people in prison, people, who work in hospitals, and they're all going through the same issue. Do you love yourself? Do you care about yourself? Do you put that first before anything? Right? What does self-care really is, right? When we think of self-care, like mani-pedi, get a haircut, like, buy some clothes, buy a nicer car, these kind of things. Like, yeah, that's part of it, but it doesn't mask what you feel inside. We all just want to be loved, but we are aiming to be loved in a very materialistic way, which means that will also be your demise. It's like the saying, live by the gun, die by the bullet, right? It's your demise. You have to really practice to love yourself. And then what does that really mean? You need to have the conversation. It means you can't be fixed thinking you know everything. We live in a generation where everyone believes they know every single thing. That's why I'm not so popular on social media, because I feel so much resistance that everyone's talking about this. They won't know the difference between something that's real and something that's not, right? But I want to be there for those people. But it's such a saturated time, and people are so confused. And I hope that if they look at it from a place of love, that they can use their funds, the money, the popularity, and these things to create an environment of coexistence. Like, why do you need to be popular just for yourself? That grows your greediness, and then you become toxic. You become a toxic human because you're hoarding information and resources. You're not circulating it to the people. It's only circulating within your own space. So I really hope that these young people can really understand that eventually at some point. And we need to create those kind of environments. We talked about this a lot, like really creating a system and a space where brothers can talk, where we could host these kind of seminars and keynote speakers, and not just put this on a podcast, but like really make it a thing.
Yeah.
You know, like an actual like workshop where people can come and attend and experience. And that's what, like, when you shared that with me and I was like all up on your dream, I'm like, okay, great, let's collaborate. Because that's my dream. My dream is to work with people who wants to help people. That's it. And then the more that we help each other, we will be much better. It's a form of love. Community becomes stronger, and then everyone feels good. And meditation is natural when you exist in a place where you don't have to protect yourself 24/7.
Self-love, brother.
Wow.
Well, listen, my brother, I cannot express enough how much I love you, how important you are to me in where I am, important to my family. You've cared for all of my family as your own. And I cannot thank you enough for just being a coach and a guide and a mentor at one of the worst times of my life. And your teachings have still stuck with me. They'll stay with me forever. And I'm still a work in progress. I'm still trying to be a better dad, a better brother, a better lover, better husband, better everything. But if I never got started on this road and didn't meet people like yourself, I'd be so far gone, man. So thank you so much, bro. I love you so much. And tell the people where they can find you in Chicago, where they can find you on social media, drop all your information. Tell me everything.
So my Instagram, I think that's the easiest, right?
Yeah.
Healing Hashim. I'm sure John will tag me in the post so you can follow me there. Unfortunately, I don't post a lot yet, but I'm aspiring to connect with people more through social media. I work right now. I'm in Chicago. I'm in North Illinois, I guess North Chicago, in Northbrook. But we have centers throughout the states. We have centers throughout the world. United States, Japan, Korea, China, New Zealand. So there's always a space that you can practice. And whether it's with me or someone else, it's important to find some good guidance, someone you can really trust and open yourself up to. So Healing Hashim, Jonathan Martinez on Facebook, all of the good stuff. I'm a public person, so you can just Google me or type me up anywhere and you'll find me pretty easily. So I hope anyone who hears this and feels the need to reach out, I'll hold space for you. And Johnny, thank you. I love you, and you are like my bald brothers, brotherhood. And if I can say anything to the community that knows John has a really special gift that he's bringing to the world, and coming from the type of environment we grew up in, and his life being 10 times more dangerous, and situations that he's been in that I couldn't imagine really being in, and the work that he's done to get this far and to preach the things that he's preaching. It takes a lot of courage for us to do this. It took me a very long time in comparison to what John is doing. I still didn't launch my podcast. So my brother, you are doing things from a really power place. Divine guidance is always behind you. So please trust everything what you're going through. And I really hope to see you soon. I'll be in New York in September. We have a festival, so please come.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it, brother. Thank you so much. Love you, bro.
I love you.
We'll talk soon.
See you later.